One, two.
Hello. Hello.
We got some good ones there. One, two.
Awesome. That is cool. I really like it.
It's pretty cool.
Totally cool.
He's gonna fight for the asteroid.
I really like it. I think it's awesome. Can I get a high five?
Yeah. Let's get a picture. Oh, we got him down here.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, I got a whole. One, two. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Awesome.
You want to come together?
How are you?
I always love those shots of tape. It's a little late, but
What do you think about this campaign? I mean, as close as it is right now, and funding and such, how's it looking?
Well, this campaign is a fundamental choice, and it's a choice for the direction of Texas. You know, as Texans, we believe in lower taxes, lower regulations. We want to see more jobs, higher wages, more opportunity. We want the border secured, and we want to protect the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. So those are the basic values that Texans agree with. This is a volatile time politically. It's clear that the extreme left is energized, angry, and filled with rage for President Trump. They're going to show out in big numbers. They're flooding tens of millions of dollars into Texas. But at the end of the day, I am confident that Texans are going to vote our common sense values. We want more jobs and more freedom, and we recognize that higher taxes and more government power is not the right answer.
What are you seeing out here with the people that you're talking to as you're making your trip around?
You know, we're seeing tremendous energy and excitement on the ground. We've been barnstorming the entire state of Texas. We've been up in East Texas. We've been in West Texas. We've been in the Panhandle. We've been in the Hill Country. We've been in South Texas. And all across the state, people are energized. I'll tell you, one of the reasons people are energized is the economy in Texas is booming. As a result of the leadership we've seen in Washington from the president, from Republican majorities in Congress, we saw the biggest tax cut of a generation. We've seen job-killing regulations pulled back. And the result is Texas is doing fantastically. Oil and gas is doing great. Farmers and ranchers are doing better. Small businesses, manufacturers. And Texans want to continue that economic growth. We want to continue that opportunity. Typically in a general election, a Democrat in Texas at least pretends to run to the middle. Congressman O'Rourke isn't doing that. Congressman Beto O'Rourke is running hard left, just like Bernie Sanders. Higher taxes, higher regulations, open borders, aggressive gun control. He's campaigning on impeaching President Trump. Now, that may be great for raising money for liberals in Hollywood, but that doesn't reflect Texas. Texans don't want to see the next 2 years in Washington turned into a political circus as Democrats try to impeach the president and paralyze the entire federal government. I think that would not be serving the interest of Texans. And so I'm encouraged. At the end of the day, there are a whole lot more conservatives than there are liberals in Texas. And so if we just show up and vote our values, we're going to see a very good election. I'll mention one other thing. You know, at this event here, and this has been true at every event I've done for the past month, at least one, if not multiple people come up to me and say, I'm a Democrat. I've always voted Democrat, but I'm with you. And I think Texas Democrats, you know, you look at Texas Democrats who for a long time were conservatives. The National Democratic Party is chasing conservative and moderate Democrats out of their party. They've become so extreme, so radical. You know, when Congressman Beto O'Rourke says he's, quote, open to abolishing ICE, abolishing the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency, that's a radical position. That's an extreme position. And I think a lot of moderate or conservative Democrats are finding that they don't have a home in their former party. And as Republicans, we're welcoming them because the common sense that brings Texas together, there's so much that unites us. We need to keep on this path we're going to more jobs and more opportunity.
So actually on that high center, you just said that you want to continue this trend of more opportunities here in Texas.
Yeah.
Congressman Rourke has said many times that Texas needs big changes and that he's got ambitious goals for how to do that. Do you think that there are some changes that Texas needs to make?
Oh, look, of course, we need to continue on the path we're on, but we need to cut taxes more. One of the things that I've campaigned hard on is adopting a simple flat tax and abolishing the IRS. That would be a dramatic improvement. Now, the tax cut we passed in December didn't go that far. But starting next year, 90% of Americans will fill out their taxes on a postcard. That's a big improvement. Went a lot of the way there. So yes, we should keep cutting taxes. We should keep simplifying the tax code. We should keep pulling back job-killing regulations that are hammering small businesses, that are hammering jobs in Texas. We have to repeal Obamacare. Obamacare, you heard today at this town hall and at town halls all over the state, Texans bring up how they can't afford health insurance anymore because under Obamacare, premiums have skyrocketed. Look, it was Congressman O'Rourke's party, the Democrats, President Obama, that gave us Obamacare, that gave us those skyrocketing premiums. So yes, there's a lot we need to do. And on immigration, there's no race in the country with a starker divide on immigration than the U.S. Senate race here in Texas. I think we need to do a lot on immigration. We need to build the wall. We need technology. We need things like infrared and fixed wing and rotary wing aircraft. We need to triple the Border Patrol. We need to pass Cates Law. I'm the author of Cates Law. Cates Law is common sense legislation that says for violent felon criminals, for aggravated felons who repeatedly enter the country illegally, they face a mandatory minimum prison sentence. The vast majority of Texans agree with that, and yet Congressman O'Rourke and the Democrats are blocking it. That's not reflecting the values of Texas. And so when you see those on the far left, when you see Beto O'Rourke and Bernie Sanders saying they want change, yes, they want change. They want much higher taxes, much higher regulations, and the government controlling your health care and controlling your lives. They want open borders. Those values resonate powerfully in New York City, in Hollywood. I guarantee you, when Beto O'Rourke came out and said impeach Trump, within 72 hours he raised millions of dollars all over the country. But that doesn't reflect Texas. The job of a senator from Texas is to represent 28 million Texans, to fight for Texans. That's what I've done every single day in office. I've kept my promises, and that's what I'll continue to do.
Criticize the media that they're getting this story wrong, especially the national media's narrative
Yeah.
doesn't always match local media's. Who's getting it right about this race?
Well, listen, I think local media does a much better job. We saw an example that I talked about here just this weekend. The story that made national news headlines about ICE arresting an illegal immigrant, taking his pregnant wife to the hospital. That headline, that naturally evoked strong emotions. Nobody wants to see someone on the way to the hospital to deliver a baby stopped. And yet the national stories omitted the fact that there was a warrant out for murder, that he was wanted for murder. That's not accurate reporting. I mean, that if a student filed that story in Journalism 101, they would flunk the class. If you didn't even include the fact that there was an active warrant for murder and ICE did its job, which is arrested somebody who was wanted for murder. And so that, the blatant political bias, especially of the national media, I think has really undermined the credibility of journalism. And I, for one, believe that there is a very important function for a free and vibrant press. But that function is powerfully undermined if the press just becomes a partisan and political arm and doesn't actually report on news, just advocates for a biased and one-sided view of the facts.
But is anyone getting it right about this race?
Listen, there are lots of, when we travel around, we do interviews with local news stations, local newspapers, who don't tend to have the same sort of national coverage. You know, when national reporters cover this race, their hearts go pitter-pat at Beto O'Rourke because he is running as the great left-wing dream. Now, we saw that phenomenon 4 years ago when Wendy Davis was running. That she also got glowing national profile. She had filibustered on the Texas legislature, the floor of the legislature, in pink tennis shoes in support of late-term abortions. And so for national reporters, that was exciting someone who would support late-term abortions. The only thing is, Texans don't support late-term abortions. She lost by 20 points. And so I think virtually all of the national coverage that is so enamored with the extreme left-wing positions and record. You know, we talked here about a couple of votes Congressman O'Rourke had. For example, legislation that I passed last year that allows states to require drug testing for unemployment benefits. That's common sense legislation. If someone's addicted to drugs, they're not ready to work. They need to get treatment. They need to get help. They need to get back on their feet. I introduced it, passed it into law. Congressman O'Rourke voted no. Another example that is even more inexplicable is when Hurricane Harvey hit almost exactly a year ago. It hammered Conroe and Montgomery County. It hammered Houston, my hometown, badly. I led in the Senate bringing 3 major disaster relief bills through Congress, but critically also passing hurricane emergency tax relief. And in the Senate, it was the Cruz, Cornyn, Rubio bill that gave between $5 and $6 billion of emergency tax relief to those impacted by Harvey and Irma and Maria. Only 4 Texas Democrats voted no to emergency tax relief for Hurricane Harvey. Congressman O'Rourke was one of them. You know, I got to say, for folks on the Gulf Coast, why Congressman O'Rourke chose to oppose tax relief for those hit by Hurricane Harvey is a question the national media will never ask. They will ask things like, is it true you're the best looking Kennedy? That's actually a quote from one of the national profiles. And that's the disconnect between where people on the ground who actually live in Texas are and where reporters who are driving a national narrative are.
Thanks, guys.
Senator, do you want them to know about you? What do you want to ask them to do for you?
When I first ran for Senate 6 years ago, I'd never been elected to nothing. And we saw a grassroots army come together. It was a race nobody thought we could win. We ended up winning 14 points in the primary, 16 points in the general. I promised the people of Texas 6 years ago, if you elect me to the Senate, I will fight every day for lower taxes, lower regulations, and more jobs. And I'll fight to defend your freedom. I'll fight to defend the Constitution and Bill of Rights, to secure the border, and to defend your rights. I believe I've kept those promises. Every single day in the Senate, I've kept those promises, fighting for the people of Texas. And I believe the people of Texas want to see lower taxes, lower regulations, more jobs, and more freedom. And if you want to keep on that path, we need to show up, and we need to bring out our friends and family and neighbors and everyone to show up in November to vote to keep Texas free and strong and prosperous and booming. Go ahead. So this is an issue I've been very active on. If you look at the ethanol mandate, you may recall in 2016 in the presidential race, I went to Iowa and campaigned against the ethanol mandate. That used to be considered lunacy, and we ended up winning Iowa. So my view is we should eliminate all the mandates and we should let the market operate. We should remove the barriers and let the market decide, and the market will decide. I think on energy, I believe in all of the above, that we should be pursuing every energy source: oil, gas, solar, wind, coal, nuclear, biofuels, all of them, but let the market decide, let consumers decide.